This is the Media Police Post, broadcasting from the Fort Hall School of Government in Nairobi, Kenya. In this show, we police the state of truth in the Republic. And because truth is communicated to us by journalists and analysts, we have made it our civic duty to put it to the test. We advance from two confirmed truths about the media. One, and according to Roger Stone, the media is either lazy or evil. And for the most part, it is both evil and lazy. That is why the truth, their truth, must be put to a test.
And two, the journalism is verified gossip. In fact, what is presented to us as news analysis is gossip that has been verified by journalists. This gossip has to be ground truthed. We will assess the state of truth in what they submit to the Republic, and we will pass verdict on what is true and what is not. For the record, we are not journalists, we are thinkers. We are not lazy or evil, and we do not verify gossip. What we give you is the truth that sets you free.
On today's show, we will discuss ideas that reflect unformed and uninformed opinions, and ideas that made you stupid. These are narratives that fell into the cognitive trap of we see things as we are, not as they are, narratives based on conjecture history, and those that smack of envelope journalism. Welcome, AX and CS.
Thank you. So, last week at a Voice of America interview, Deputy President RUTO alleged that the opposition was dead in Kenya because the handshake had killed it. And this allegation made me feel stupid. In fact, it assaulted my intelligence with its naivete. Therefore, today I would like to answer one very simple question. Have we outgrown RUTO's opposition politics? In claiming that the handshake that welcomed Raila to government is the same handshake that is allegedly responsible for the death of the opposition, RUTO suggests that he believes the following: that first, the opposition is the responsibility of one party or one man, and that second, to be in the opposition is to constantly obstruct government without rhyme or reason, and neither of these portend good things for country. Because if the opposition is the responsibility of one man and one man alone, then strategies from the political professor extraordinaire himself, Mzee Moi, will do. From tear gas Mondays to detention Fridays. And remember that RUTO was his star student.
Index number one. So, is it possible that RUTO has learned more than the fiction that opposition is individual? Second, and according to RUTO, if the role of the opposition is to obstruct government without rhyme or reason, then what happens to governance? Put simply, does anything get done? The answer is no. Just ask the Americans. For the last 14 years, this is how they have treated the opposition. Democrats reject bills when Republicans are in power, and Republicans return the favor. And as a result, Congress's productivity has fallen to less than half of what it used to be. From passing an average of around 828 bills per two-year meeting in the 1950s to less than half of that, merely 339 today. And in that same time, American politics has changed. Success is now measured by how well you obstruct the other guy and not what you get done. And only country will pay the price. This is the RUTO logic of opposition politics. However, this is the same logic that told him it would be a good idea to spend 107 million shillings to secure the votes of just over 7,000 registered diaspora voters at a cost of roughly 15,000 shillings per voter, not to mention the lukewarm support of a government who didn't even let him into the White House. So clearly, this logic is flawed. This begs the question, what is the opposition in our politics? Well, the Constitution of Kenya 2010 envisions Parliament, not any political party, as the body that performs the role of the opposition, checking government behavior. This is the combined effect of Articles 95.5 and 96.4, which explicitly instruct the National Assembly and the Senate to check the executive. This means that opposition is a collective responsibility, not an individual one. So if the opposition is a collective responsibility of Parliament, how can it be dead just because one man built bridges? And if indeed RUTO believes this one man is so powerful as to build bridges, then is it possible that he believes the same man is so powerful as to fix him? Perhaps this is why he cares about this issue. and why he has gone to whine to the US and the UK like a child crying to their parent. For if you look at his history, he has never cared about the opposition before. For had he cared, he would have supported BBI and the greater protections it afforded to the opposition, such as the creation of an official leader of the opposition post. Had he cared about the opposition, he would have not been so afraid to lead the opposition to BBI. And had he cared about the opposition, he would have donned the mantle of opposition leader in residence proudly, seeing as he was walking like the opposition, talking like the opposition, and quacking like the opposition. Maybe Ruto has had a premonition that he is going to be the opposition, and he is defending it a priori, or before the fact. That is the naked truth. In the meantime, his visit to the US and the UK had only one intention: to insult the collective intelligence of the Mzungu. Because Ruto thinks that everyone is stupid, including the Mzungu priest from Roma, who baptized him when he was just a boy, before he got circumcised. And that is the naked truth, pun intended.
That deserves a moment for us to pause. Last week, the most famous Christian from Sekuru, Brother Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka, decided to publicize a private document in order to broaden his space on the table where power is negotiated. But he would have Kenyans believe that he did so in the spirit of fairness. Since Brother Stephen decided to engage in legal arguments, we want to remind him that the area of law that most often deals with questions of fairness is known as the law of equity. And because he is a good lawyer, he may remember that one of the basic principles of equity is that equity doesn't aid the indolent, it aids the vigilant. In other words, equity is about fairness. And for equity to be fair, the early bad has to catch the worm. If Kalonzo truly wished to profit from his MOU with Raila, then he should have made it public in 2017. That way, we would have at least joined him in his expectation. Instead, Kalonzo waited until Raila went alone to Uhuru Park and risked the wrath of the laws of treason. He waited until Raila exchanged hands with the president for the good of country. He waited until Raila Odinga helped the president for close to 4 years in nation building without asking for anything in return. And then, the moment a grateful Uhuru Kenyatta endorses the man he prefers to be his successor after they have worked closely with him, Kalonzo chooses that moment to jump out of the bush at the last minute with an MOU that is not worth the paper it is written on. In contrast, the unwritten agreement that now exists between Uhuru and Raila is a covenant underpinned by the goodwill of the people. Raila understands this, which is why he would sooner subject the choice between him and Kalonzo to a vote by delegates, because such an outcome would have the force of social contract. History has brought us to a precipice where the spirit of inclusion ranks above the ambitions of individual politicians. This is also why we must remind Kalonzo of another principle of equity, which demands that he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. Put differently, he who looks for fairness must also be fair. And that is also the original meaning of a handshake. The shaking of hands is not the same thing as the holding of hands. With the shaking of hands, all hidden weapons under your sleeves are meant to fall off. Kalonzo conveniently reminded us of the events of 2017 and of 2013 when he backed Raila. But since he invoked fairness, let us also be fair by going a little farther back in history to a moment he conveniently forgot to mention. In 2007, Kalonzo insisted on being the ODM Kenya flag bearer by any means necessary. He ran away with the ODM Kenya certificate and almost left Raila Odinga, the father of the ODM movement, without a party. He acted in bad faith. Kalonzo now tells us that he made a great sacrifice in supporting Kibaki by becoming vice president, after coming third with 800,000 votes. But the question is, if he had supported Raila or Kibaki from the very onset, resulting in a clear winner, would the country have fought with itself? Arguably, some historians may even submit that part of the 800,000 votes attributed to him was a result of many Kenyans going to the ballot and not being able to tell the difference between ODM and ODMK, between the party symbols of an orange and a half. Then later, when Kalonzo discovered this confusion, he turned the orange and a half into a swinging wiper, and he rebranded ODMK to WDMK. Mukora kabisa. Now Kalonzo is telling us that we shouldn't be afraid of provisions in the Constitution such as a runoff. Yet the history of our country gives us every reason to be afraid of such a provision. But only a man who puts self before country would make such an argument. A man who during the Jubilee NDC, when everyone spoke about country, he talked about himself. Kalonzo, me, myself, and I. A man who doesn't realize that the social contract arises from people seeking to avoid the state of nature, which is a state of war. And so they come together to craft a lasting peace for the good of country.
Powerful words there. Well, this week I'll disregard all the columns and propose a suggested column addressed to both the Azimio la Umoja movement and UDA, or Kenya Moja Kwanza Alliance, or whatever they choose to call themselves. The column is titled When to Pick a Running Mate, and the deadline for this decision is April 28th. Yes, Raila and Ruto have just under 2 months to pick a running mate. It is that serious. The running mate in this election will be from Gema. This is a fact that is necessitated by the reality of the 2022 election. If you want the Gema masses to show up on election day in a situation where they do not have a presidential candidate, then the running mate must come from the Gema nation. But how does Azimio or Kenya Kwanza choose the best possible candidate for the position of running mate from the available options? And in this decision, timing is everything. If either of them picks a running mate too early, they may miss out on the best running mate candidate Gema has to offer, the one who would bring in the most votes. But if Raila or Ruto holds off on the decision, waiting for a better candidate or a better deal with Gema, that candidate may not exist, and that deal may never materialize. More importantly, the Gema running mate one chooses will affect the running mate the other will choose. For instance, if Ruto chooses Rigathi Gachagua, because he will, as his running mate, Raila will pick a running mate from a county that has not been in the presidency before, like Peter Kenneth, Murang'a, Martha Karua, Kirinyaga, or maybe Peter Munya from Meru. So how can Raila and Ruto strike a balance in this running mate decision dilemma? Choosing a running mate is like choosing who to marry. And this problem, the problem of deciding when to stop dating and settle down, has a long, rich history in mathematical literature. It's called the optimal stopping problem. In fact, there's a simple rule that will guarantee you will marry the absolute best person more than 1/3 of the time. And the rule can be transferred to other decision scenarios like choosing a running mate. So in mathematics, the theory of optimal stopping is concerned with the problem of choosing a time to take a particular action in order to maximize an expected reward or minimize an expected cost. The simple rule to picking the perfect Gema candidate is this, and this rule applies equally to both Raila and Ruto. So make a list of all the prominent Gema candidates on your side. Once you have the list lined up, you should work your way through the first 37%. List their pros and cons and dismiss each one as you go. Then pick the next person after that who is better than all those that came before them. This is the foolproof mathematical formula to picking the right running mate. However, like true Kenyans, both Raila and Ruto will wait until the last minute, the IEBC deadline for nomination submissions by direct nomination, to declare their running mate, at which point they'll both be locked in the choice they have made. Thank you for joining us on the Media Police Post. Columnists, we've put you on notice, and see you next Monday.